So what this talk is I'm going to tell you what a startup is, why it might be the fastest way to grow your career, and also how to get your foot in the door into one. And this is not a talk about why big tech sucks. I don't think it does. But this is also not a talk on how to found a company. As Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, said, it's often a better deal to join a company on a rocket trajectory than to create your own. This is what we're used to, right? We kind of send out like 200 applications on Handshake, LinkedIn, Indeed, I don't know what other platforms. And we just pray that someone's going to pick up our resume and say, wow, this guy's amazing. And maybe offer them an interview and hopefully end up with a final offer. Now, I'm not saying this is broken, but I'm going to offer you another way into the world, I suppose. So yeah, and that is through startups. Paul Graham, who is the founder of Y Combinator, which is arguably the most important startup accelerator incubator in the world, defines startups as a company designed to grow fast. What this means is it's not small. It doesn't mean that it's like built in a garage or whatever you've heard about startups. But all it really means is that, yeah, you're going to join the company and the work that you do is mission critical from day one. You're not just adding a button to a app that a billion people use. You're actually building the thing that determines whether that app survives. You ship to real users, you talk to real customers, you wear every hat, like you're coding, you're talking to ops people, whatever it is. And you're going to learn a lot more in 3 months than you would at a big tech company. Now, people can debate me on that, but it's also fair to say that if it doesn't work out, because I'm sure you've heard the stats, like I think 97% of startups fail or something, it doesn't matter actually, because you've come away from that experience with like so much more depth and breadth in these technologies. You're always going to have a job, and the downside of trying is really low. And as the founder of the company that I worked at, Delphi, said, this is like asymmetric upside. That's what we'd like to say all the time. So it's always upwards, hopefully. Now, this is the difference from what I've seen at a big tech company. This is like AWS, for example. I spoke to one of my friends versus what I did this summer. So this is over the course of 3 months. What's the difference? Well, I shipped features to real customers, real users, and I had to speak to them to make sure that those features, those bugs were actually solved. I had to debug production, which meant like there were bugs in the product, people were facing like problems, so I had to fix those. I had to like deal with growth, talking to ops people, talking to product people, and of course engineering. And the key thing is that the code you write at a startup is like the product itself. It's not some internal tool like what you do in big tech. Instead, it's usually something more important than that. And yeah, at a big tech company, like it's pretty cool. You get to work on a small component of something internal that like 2 or 3 teams maybe use. And you have like huge teams inside, but the surface area which you touch is far, far smaller. And that's just because you're a risk to that company, essentially, right? And to further illustrate this, this is the leveling kind of scheme in a big tech company. You can see like MathWorks, whatever. I want to highlight Google. You start off as like a level 3 engineer, or maybe level 4 if you're good. And your whole goal in life is just to like progress through the ladder, like go up, try and level up. And the whole idea is the further up you go, the more responsibility you get. And it's only at that point do you actually have the ability to make like executive decisions over what the product should be. And you're able to like talk to the actual customers and stuff of that kind of nature, which is totally different to the way that startups work. And startups are like, they don't come in a single shape or flavor or color or whatever you want to call it. They start off as an early stage seed company. For example, I'm working at Interfere this summer, which is a company building self-heat software, we call it. And there's only 4 people at the company, right? That is like smaller than my friend group, right? But we've raised like $5 million. That's the seed round. And the whole goal is to move from left to right. And so a growth stage company would be something like, it would be a Series A or Series B company, whereas later stage companies like Meter and Owner, Ben Borgers works at Owner, are like Series C and beyond. So it's kind of an alphabet, it goes A, B, C, D. And the whole goal of these companies is to go public. So that's like IPOing. And the place where you'll like have the most impact is at these early stage companies, because you are like 1/5 of their entire team, for example. And I just want to further illustrate that there are a bunch of companies right now that are not public, that are all hiring. They all want intelligent undergraduates to come, or like just intelligent engineers to come and work for them. And this is 16 of them. I'm sure you've seen some of them, but the key point I want to illustrate is like some people, so some of these companies are data companies, some of them are like building drones. So, and some of them are defense companies, AI companies. Yeah. So it comes in, this is to say that startups are not just specifically about tech, but about a huge number of different industries. So now you might be saying, Tika, this sounds great, but how do I actually get into one? Because what happens is I look at their website and there's no like handshake posting. There's no LinkedIn posting. There's just no HR screening, no technical interview. It's like, how do I even get in? And this might come as a surprise, but the answer is through people and networking. And I know everyone's going to switch off now. They're all going to say, hey, I don't like networking. I don't like people. But the truth is there are like precise things that you can do in order to get into these companies. How many of you have a plan for your next internship that isn't just like spray and pray? Right, that's what I thought. So I'm going to start with my first point, which is you should research like you care. You need to jump in and say, let's say you wanted to work at this company called Clay. It's quite hard to see, actually. You can first start looking up who the founder is, and then find his Twitter profile, and then start reading his posts. Read his posts from like a year back and try and understand like who this person is, why he's building Clay, and the whole idea is like, you're trying to really understand the philosophy behind the company. If you watch 3 talks from a founder and you're immediately bored, that's probably a good sign that you shouldn't apply to the company. So the key thing is like knowing where to apply and learning what the right thing is about that company for you. Second thing is, I think a lot of people have this strange idea that like you're supposed to just be asked to be an intern. Like people are just hoping that, yes, I really want an intern who knows nothing to destroy my code base. Like the real thing that they want is someone who's like, has the agency to reach out and be like, hey, I know you're hiring for some people, but this is what I would do if I was at your company. So you can be really specific because you only have 3 months, right? So you can say, I'm going to build X, Y, or Z. And a really good example, a really good example of like a message you could send is, I've been following what you're building. I noticed you don't have X yet. Here's how I'd approach it. And here's a project that proves that I can do that. Because so many people kind of don't prove themselves. So if you're actually able to build a prototype of something that's relevant to the company, it's going to like massively increase the chances of you being responded to. And the other thing is Silicon Valley, I know actually most like early stage companies, the founder has like no time. He has negative time. He's always spending time on something. So being concise is like the most important thing. And it's something that a lot of people get wrong. They kind of want to send out these like really long cover letters or like send out their whole resume. Like, who cares, bro? Just say you want to work there and say you can work there. And then if it doesn't work out, then whatever. But you should try and hop on a call with the founder. That's the goal. This is a real email that one of my friends who was an intern with me at the company sent out to the founder. He said, everyone and their mother wants to work at Delphi, right? This is like very attention grabbing. So your goal when you're sending out cold emails is to try and make the founder to open it and understand what you want within 2 sentences. And further than that, like he just says, I'm this, and this is what I would do if I was there. And that's the whole idea, right? Very concise and a really good email. The third thing I'd say is it's a volume game. Really, like most people won't reply to your messages, not because they hate you, but because they literally do not have time. They're building a whole company, they're raising money, they're in like the fastest environment you can be in. And that's like totally normal. So instead, what you need to do is keep expanding your viewpoint, try find new people, try and follow up with them every day. And I have a few little tricks for this. But it's not a case of sending the perfect message, it's the case of sending enough messages. That is essentially what I'm getting at. And I know this is like probably quite obvious, but some platforms like LinkedIn, for example, tell you who your mutuals are. You should try and use the network that you already have. So for example, I wanted to work at this company called Speak. So then I look on the people page, I see that Ben Borgers knows who is a product person at Speak. And then I can just kind of make that connection and hop in, right? Like the whole idea is I can leverage the network that I have so that I can hopefully get someone at the company to notice who I am. And this is a really interesting point where how you network is how you work. What this means is if you've even been able to get in front of the founder, like that's already a huge step forward that someone else hasn't been able to do. And I'm not just talking founders. You can talk to engineers, product people, designers, whatever it may be. But basically, you've shown that you've at least tried to do something if you're in front of the founder. Whereas if you sent your application through a portal, you have like done the bare minimum and you're just asking for a job based off miracle, essentially. And that's really the playbook. And for me, this is what it looked like. So when I was a freshman, last December, I sent out an email to this guy called Jordan, who's the CEO of VAPI, which means Voice API. And they make like AI voice API stuff. I got my friend to connect me to the founder and I sent him an email. The guy didn't reply. So I was like, okay, I'm going to create a little product for you. So I made his whole product like within 6 hours. And then I sent it to him. I sent a Loom video with a repo and he still didn't reply. Bummer. But at least I made a product, right? But with this other founder, Dara, who was my boss last summer, I sent him, we had a call and then I made a product based off what the call was about. So I thought about this cool idea for having like video stuff in the, this like this cloning company. And look at his reply. He's like, nice, I like that. So really you can get feedback on your ideas and you'll know if you're a good fit because you've already created a product for them. Like you've already shown you know what you're doing. And there's thousands of these examples. I found this website the other day, coldemails.world, has a bunch of cool examples of great emails. So for example, this guy just said, hey, love what you're building, love what you're doing. Can I work for you? And like the reply is like, yeah, we'd love to talk more. And I want to say that it gets so much easier after the first time. So maybe you're a freshman or a sophomore and like you're trying to get an internship. I know it's a bit late now, but maybe for next year. It gets so much easier after you've worked at one, because this was my message to work with someone this summer. It was, hey, I'd love to work with you again. Because he was at my last company, left the company to make his own. And then the other thing that I have on this slide is the company values for the company which I'm going to. And the key thing is that these founders that have like a company of 100 people, they're really like cherry picking these values to try and get the right people. So you should look at those values and try to understand like the why behind them. So for example, Interfere has the value of average is the enemy. And you might be like, why do they have that? The answer actually is that the CEO is a massive like OCD neat freak, and he like adores kind of working on these like little details. For example, he spent like all night working on a single animation for his product. So it kind of shows you what the culture would be like at that company. And that's like super important because yeah, you can like apply to a million things, but at the end of the day, you're going to be working on one of them. So yeah. Now, I guess the question is, what can you do? You're sitting here, sounds great. Like, yeah, I can send out emails and stuff, but what like practically can I do? Number one is you should build things and put them online. It could be literally anything, but I highly recommend trying to solve like a real problem. Tweet about it, put it on GitHub. You gotta make sure your GitHub graph is green. That is a big thing. My boss like nearly fired me over that. Yeah. And try and learn new technologies for the sake of it. So like, we're all here, we all learned React, cool. But can you learn something deeper in React? Or can you learn a new framework like Svelte? Or what can you do to show that you're like actively learning? You need to keep, that's the whole point of startups. Like, I'll talk about big tech in a second. Next, you should try DM people every day and follow up. Understand that LinkedIn is like, well, X is the LinkedIn for the tech world. So if you're on X and you're like posting all the time, you'll get a few followers, but you'll try and make your feed really curated to be like where you want to work or like the kinds of people you want to be around. There's like so many different types of companies, but most people are on Twitter. Most people are tweeting because that's where like the best engineers are. The fourth thing, comment on posts for a week, then DM. So this is an interesting tactic where if you're on Twitter, like you can start by engaging in people's posts. So like if you wanted to get a founder's attention, start liking the post, start replying to them, start giving like useful feedback to things, and then DM him after a week. And hopefully your little avatar will mean something more than just like a bunch of pixels. And then the fifth thing is try and find a mentor by being worth mentoring. What this really means is like, you need to be an active listener, someone gives you feedback and then you're like taking that and you're really like driving it forward. The whole point of this talk, I suppose, is about agency. It's about going out there and creating something from nothing. And the other cool thing that I thought about was maybe try build a project that is adjacent to one of these startups, right? And then reach out to an engineer at one of those companies and be like, hey, I built this thing. I know you work on something similar at X company. And yeah, I was wondering what your thoughts are on my project. I'm sure people would absolutely love to help you. Like, you just have to ask. Really, it's quite simple. So stop waiting for someone to tell you what to do. I think that nobody will come to save you. You have to go and make it happen yourself. So go and find that rocket and get on the rocket. And I hope that advice is helpful to you. It's been a pleasure to speak to you all tonight. I have some time for questions.